Visual Studio 2008 includes rich support for Windows Communication Framework, or WCF, services and clients. Using this rich support, we can easily generate all the GUI code that we'd need to write manually if we were to not use Visual Studio. Let's take a look at this. We'll create a new project. Let's use Visual Basic, and let's create a WCF service library. The default code generated automatically creates a couple functions for us. The one we'll use is called getData, and it takes an integer and returns a string. And by default, that code will just return a string. You can look here, it'll say you entered and the number that you entered. Let's go ahead and build that. We'll need it to be built so that our client application, which we're about to add, can see that. Let's create the client as C#, and let's just make it a console application, just for kicks and giggles. Okay, now we've got a console application. We need to add what's called a service reference. That'll bring up this dialog, and if we click the Discover button in this dialog, that will go ahead and look for services that are in our solution already. Let's expand the node here, and what that does is that starts that service up and looks for all the things that are running inside of it. And we're just going to reference that service right there. Okay, now you can see that that service has been added to our project, and that lets us reference the thing. If we go into main here, you can see that we have a service reference namespace there, and there's some classes in the interface that are there. We'll go ahead and create up a new one of those. There we go. And with giving it no arguments, that's going to communicate to the one that's already on our machine. If we needed to communicate to a remote one, we'd need to specify arguments that gave the correct address. And to test this thing out, let's just create a loop that runs, let's say 100 times. And inside that loop, we'll just call the service getData function with the loop variable, and then we'll just print that out. Okay, let's build that. Everything builds okay, so we're looking good. Now, in order to run this, we actually need to run, or debug this, we actually need to run two separate processes. So, luckily the debugger supports us in that. We can go right-click on the service project and select Debug, Start New Instance. That's going to start a new instance of the service, and it's also going to start what's called the WCF test client. Now, you can play around with this client and see that you can actually test your service right from there by manually typing in things to send to it. We're not going to mess with that right now. Instead, we're going to go back to Visual Studio, go to our console application, the client, and select Debug, Start New Instance for it as well. That's going to cause it to run. Now that the service is already running, it'll be able to talk to that, and there we can see it run and exit, and that's all there is to it.